Thank you for the reminder.
Hi, are you talking about the tool that was added in like the few days after the closures? Yeah,
Yes.
okay. Okay. I was just wondering. I haven't tried it yet.
Yeah.
I was able to get it to work when I first tested it, and I tested it with just the staff checkouts. So I had a nice small little picture, did a couple of hundred checkouts, boom, worked beautifully. So I got all excited, went in to use it, and limited it to a single patron category and just a week's worth of dates to bump that week's worth of dates forward, and it timed out. And I decided if I can't just do a single week for a single patron category, this isn't worth my time. And so I had Addie do it.
Yeah, same, that we ran into the same issue. I could do small numbers, but it timed out anytime I tried anything very big.
So I know that the timeout issue, we kind of we made a modification to the tool a little bit to give you the option of not previewing what it was that you were going to do. It's on the large numbers, it's setting up the preview that was causing the tool to time out. So we made the preview optional in that case, or I believe the patch that Kyle was working on would let you look at a sample subset. And that seems to have at least affected the timeouts on large data sets. There's not a real great solution to being able to look at the entire data set before you do it without running a report on that data set to look at what the tools would touch.
Okay, that's good to know. If we have to extend again, I may want to look at that again then. So what are some other things that folks have done?
Well, I just wanted to mention InLibro has a plugin that does the change due dates, and we've used it with all our clients, and we haven't had timeouts that I know of. So I can maybe send the link. You can maybe try that instead of the tool that is in Koha.
Sure, can you, if you can find that link and if you can put it in the chat, that'd be great. I'm going over, looking through some of the chat right now. Holly, did our answer make sense to you? You asked that you tested it on your test site and you were wondering what went wrong with us. I think we explained that. Yes, lots of cabin fever. So has anybody done anything much with their OPAC since they've been closed?
I mean, outside of putting up a news item and shutting off holds, that's pretty much everything we've done.
One of the things we did is I made a quick backup of all the information on our main user block. And then I created a whole new page that highlighted, all it did was highlight all of our digital resources instead of all of the, all the different read-alike type stuff we had up there and the book recommendations and all of those kinds of things. I just had our digital resources up there with a direct link to our e-card process. And that is now our homepage until we reopen back up. I figured that's what people are looking for. If they can't place holds and they can't get a book, why focus on catalog stuff?
Are a lot of libraries using the online registration for their patrons?
I think there's a significant number of us. I know there's a number of us in this group right now that are using it.
I just set it up. I know a few libraries that were already using it, but I just set it up and I immediately ran into library directors that didn't want it set up. You know, we have 50 libraries, and I did a demo of, I said, you know, I had like about 10 people came to a meeting like this one, and I showed them how it would work. And one of them had a lot of objections because the self-registration actually violates part of their specific library's policies. And so what we decided to do is, instead of, you know, with 50 libraries, instead of having each person sign up for their home library, we had them all of the new cards that are being created at the system headquarters, so that they're all my patrons instead of belonging to the individual libraries. And that wasn't hard to set up, so the only option they have is one library when they self-register. And then I've come up with a set of instructions for what people need to do to move that card to an individual library once this problem passes. And then once we're past it, we're gonna leave it set up, but right now I've got it set up so that as soon as the patron registers, they get a card number, and they're verified to go on and use our digital resources. After we're done with this, I'm going to change it so that each library has to verify through their own policies, you know, before the card number gets issued. So. And actually, I can put a plug in here for Koha-thon next week, is I will actually talk about this at the koha-US Koha-thon. This will be one of the presentations I do, will be about setting up self-registration this way. So if you're not doing anything on the 23rd, I'll find a link and I'll put it in the chat to the Koha-thon, is the online conference that koha-US is doing next Thursday, I think it is, the 23rd.
And if we're plugging things, we did talk about self-registration at the web development SIG last week, and Lucas had a lot of good ideas for like little things you can do to make it work better for you. So like you can, instead of using auto memnum to generate your card numbers, you can use a little jQuery hack to put together card numbers, and also do the same thing with passwords, where you're like showing the field but then hiding it, but generating things in the background, which would streamline some stuff for people. So if you're interested in that stuff, our recording's up on the koha-US YouTube page for that.
All right, I'll have to go watch that. We've been doing a lot of manual entry with it. I noticed there was a question in the chat about a library using IP range for their staff client, and that has, of course, generated some problems from home. I've gone ahead and opened up a ticket with Bywater to help them with that. But is anybody else facing that kind of thing? Okay.
That has certainly not been a problem for us because our staff already had access from home. Like I said, with 50 libraries, and we've got some really small libraries in the middle of nowhere where the library doesn't, the library's ISPs in some of our communities can't provide a static ISP, or they can't provide a static IP. And so we've never really had the ability to lock people out of the staff client to begin with. So that's not been an issue for us, but I know there are other libraries that use the IP ranges for security. So.
Anybody else have any issues that they're facing?
We're already looking at the process we're going to go through when we start opening up again. And one of the things, I think it came up in a koha-US meeting a few weeks ago. I don't remember which one it was, but somebody was talking about the ability to, when you check items into Koha, have them immediately go to a set shelving location. So you could check stuff in and have it go to say a quarantine shelving location. And then that way everything that comes in just goes there and you know where it's at. And then after a certain amount of time, you take it out. I don't think you can set it up to come out of that automatically, but you could just run a report to see how long something has been
I
at
think
that
there,
location.
oh, maybe that's in an older version, but wasn't there the cart to shelf cron job or something like that that you can use after a certain
Okay.
amount of time? Not sure it still exists though.
I think that was deprecated, but I'm not 100% sure.
Andrew wrote up a blog post on this. I'll put it in the chat on how to transition using the update not for loan status on check-in syspref.
Okay, thanks.
So yeah, that's in the chat.
You know, that's not something we've ever used because it's all in our past. It's always been wrong. This is a time that it would actually be right.
Talking about opening up libraries, we had a meeting of a lot of our libraries earlier this morning, and it's just like it's very uncertain how we're all going to proceed. And I think that a lot of us are going to, a lot of my little libraries are going to open up at different times. So there was a lot of discussion about maybe easing into it more, starting with curbside pickup before we start opening up to the public again, and how we're going to handle that. So there's just a lot of physical considerations that we still haven't made. But also in regards to Koha, we're thinking we're going to probably want to open it up to allow local holds only at the start, because we don't know how the courier is going to shake out for us yet. So, and then we also talked about what we're going to do with all the things that are in transit that probably don't need to be in transit anymore. Things that were going out for holds that don't have holds on them anymore. We're going to have to go through and clean up all of that. So I'm just starting to think about the messes that I have to clean up and trying not to get overwhelmed by that.
One of the things that we're doing, we have, I'm sure this is not unique. One of the situations we have is we hired a couple of people right before closing. We also have a situation where we have, most of our folks can't really work from home, not because they can't, but because there's not real work for them to do from home. So the folks that are facing hours problems, they either don't have enough sick leave, they don't have enough legitimate leave to continue to be paid. We're coming up with legitimate work for them to do in the library and keeping social distancing and those kinds of things. And one of the things we've come up with is doing a complete inventory, working through all of the books, doing it in a rather inefficient manner, but a manner that's going to really clean up our shelves, and utilizing this time for that.
Yeah, it's a good idea. And I heard also about cleaning up authorities for catalogers and things like that. You know, sometimes you have doubles and you want to merge and you can only do 2 at a time. So it can be time consuming.
Yeah, this is a great time for those little projects. One of the problems we faced here is we don't want to have people just doing busy work. And that's something that would not be busy work, that is good, legitimate work for catalogers and folks to do. Some of our librarians have wanted to do collection development because they can do that from home. But we're not ordering anything. Nothing's being shipped. You know, you can put together your lists, but that's just busy work. Okay, yeah, somebody just asked, what are we doing? Elder checks and offering delivery of holds to patrons. We have the city of McKinney that I work for has just started doing elder checks, and we do have folks that are doing elder checks as well. Just calling elderly folks, checking up on them, making sure that's good. That's legit, you know, that's good, legitimate work. We're not doing the whole delivery. We're not willing to. That's too complicated. Somebody else just commented that they have one or two sites which, for a variety of reasons, have duplicated patron accounts. So they've been using this time to clean up patron records. That's a good thought too, cleaning up patron records. We try to catch those on a weekly basis. We have a report that runs that we try to catch most of that stuff and clean it up. Another comment here, some staff have been helping out with report cleanup. Yep. Make sure that the reports are working correctly.
Ooh, cleaning up diacritics, that's a really good idea.
Yeah. Somebody else can do that.
It's a good idea. I didn't say I was going to do it.
I'm not going to mention that to our cataloger. That will send her down a rabbit hole that we won't get her out of until that along with the
cataloger. For a cataloger, that's like that's like a lifelong task that they will dive into and never come. One of the tasks that I had to commit myself to in order to get their circulation rules to work correctly is we had a lot of duplicated circulation rules. The item type default rules, the ones at the very bottom of the circulation fines and fees rules. Some of my predecessors, when they created a new item type, they would go in and they would add a specific rule to each individual location for that item type. So when I wanted to make some global changes to those item types, it meant that I had to go in and change every single one. I couldn't just do it at the all branches level. So, so I did find myself very early on in this deleting a bunch of redundant circulation rules. So that might be another fun task for a system administrator. It certainly wasn't fun. We had about 900 of them that I had to delete because, you know, there were duplicated over 50 branches, about 40 different item types duplicated in that way. So one of the things, you know, with our system being so many libraries, we're at a point now where I think it's fewer than half of our libraries have fines at the moment. So I've been, you know, talking to directors and trying to encourage them. This would be the perfect time to go fine free, because I've got, you know, it's going to be that much easier for me to handle making those changes to those rules right now when it's not going to affect anybody. It's going to be, you know, I've got nothing else to do. This would be the perfect time to talk to your board about getting rid of fines, and I can take care of all the rules while everybody's closed. So far, however, nobody's taken me up on that. They are going to wait until it's as busy as possible with everything being reopened, and then they'll say, you know, that thing you were talking about, we decided to do that.
Yeah, I also wonder if libraries are just a tad nervous about talking about stopping what could be perceived as a revenue stream, even though it's not, what could be perceived as a revenue stream while everything is in a shutdown economy. I can see where a library would be afraid to have that conversation right now.
Something else that we've been working on is we've got a pretty big Hispanic population in some of our service areas, but so far we haven't really had notifications that go out in Spanish. And so I've been, I don't translate Spanish, but one of our staff members does. And so we've been working on, I've just been formatting and sending notifications to her, and she'll translate them and send them back, and I put them in. And so that's another idea if anyone doesn't already do that.
Yeah, I like that, taking time for translations.
If that person needs some other work to do, Michael, let me know.
We haven't had them start doing it yet because technically our stay-at-home order is supposed to end tomorrow, unless it gets extended tomorrow when he does a press conference. But if it is extended, we're going to have CERC staff start working on cleaning up patron notes, like notes on patrons' accounts, because we have a lot of things that, like, we don't put notes on for expired holds, like holds that we're waiting for pickup too long anymore at our branch, but there's still old ones from before we stopped doing that. Or we, when George was here, he linked some accounts using HTML so that you can like click to go to a different patron account if they can pick up holds for each other. And we've worked on getting old accounts updated with that, but there's still a lot to do. And yeah, we have a report with patron notes, and I think I actually set it up so that if you click on the patron, it goes to the edit screen at the section where the notes are. Or I told them I could do that because I've done it for some other reports, similar edit places. So I think I did get that set up before I sent it to the CERC manager. And that's the plan there.
If the notes aren't appearing in HTML anymore, I have the jQuery to make them appear in HTML again.
I think you already gave me that jQuery, or else it got fixed. That note in particular maybe is fixed. I don't remember, but it works for us right now. So
It's funny, I was so ready to hear you say something. Yeah, when George was here, he did this, and now we got to fix it all.
Well, that's essentially what she's saying, yeah.
yeah, because he started that, but no one else did it for a long time. I started doing it when I first started there doing CERC. But most of the CERC staff, we have got most of the CERC staff doing it now as of like the last 6 months, but there's still years of old notes where like so-and-so can pick up holds for so-and-so, some of which are very unhelpful. They'll just be like, patron's husband can pick up holds. And it's like, well, what's husband's name? Also, we don't care that he's husband. We just care that he can pick up holds.
Yeah, that was an issue.
Yeah.
George, did you share that jQuery in the jQuery library or someplace?
I didn't write it. I think somebody from Bywater did for me. I think Michael did. That's how long ago it was needed. I'll have to look and see if it's in there or not.
Because we've got a number of those situations, and we just see the patron's name and then go to check it out to that patron and jump to it that way. But
yeah, it used to be that when you created a these are not the notes, these are the messages.
right.
It used to be that the patron messages would appear, if you put HTML in the messages, it natively rendered it as HTML, and then there was a update, and that function was removed because some developer decided it wasn't needed anymore, or what some developer decided it shouldn't have worked that way to begin with, and so it got taken out, and then all of a sudden we had hundreds of messages that had HTML in them that wouldn't render that way anymore. And so Michael at Bywater, who wasn't there very long, and it's been years ago, so probably about 3 years ago, when he was only there for about 6 months, he wrote some jQuery to do that. So, and it also works in other places. It used to be that if you put HTML in the notes on reports, those would also render as HTML. And the same jQuery can be added to that div on those pages, so those notes, if you have HTML in your report notes, that will appear. And that's how I was doing something where I clicked on a link in a report that I was showing to somebody in some meeting, and they said, wait a minute, how the hell did you do that? Slow down. And then I realized that you can't do that unless you have that jQuery in there. So it's really something that ought to be in the library if it isn't.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious as to what the Circ staff has to do to make that happen. If a spouse or whoever it is says this person can check out my holds, do they have to use a certain format to get that to work?
You've got to put a link in there. Essentially, you've got to write the HTML for a link that goes to the other.
Do you have
account.
a pre-made note that?
Yeah, we have a copy paste.
I think it was too long for a predefined message. It was too much text because the predefined messages have a limit on how much text can be in there. It's smaller than a tweet. It's like 90 characters or something like that. And so I just had an auto hotkey button that I could press, like Control-Shift something, and plug that in there. I don't remember exactly what I did with it when I was at Latah County Library because it's been almost 4 years since I've been there, and I really don't remember. It's long enough ago that I've forgotten half of the things that I did there. So
we just have like a copy and paste document on the desktop that has it, and we put it in the note field instead of the message field now anyway, so the predefined note wouldn't matter if it was working there.
Does HTML work in the patron notes? Okay.
I can send that out to the group after this. I have another meeting, so I have to run, but I can send out that and the report that I use for editing in case anyone else is interested.
I'd be interested in that.
Yeah. Cool. I'll send that out after.
All right. Anybody else have any fun war stories? One thing that's nice about this working at home is we actually get to see Heather.
Yeah, I've got a better internet connection.
How is anybody dealing with working at home that's not used to working at home? How are things going in that area for anybody? How many people besides me are stuck in their garage?
You know, it's not the working from home aspect that changed. It's the fact that the home environment changed for me, because now all of a sudden I have 4 kids trying to go to online school all at the same time. And only once have I had to kick them all off so that I could have the bandwidth for a thing.
Neckles is having a Tuesday morning staff meeting, and it was right before this meeting. And I got on and was talking to a couple of people, and my wife is a teacher, and she was in the other room in a class, and our 10-year-old was upstairs in a class upstairs, and then all of a sudden none of us were in our meetings again. So that's been an issue here, where like if everybody is in Zoom or Google Hangouts all at the same time, we don't have enough bandwidth for that. So it was nice seeing everybody in the living room in the basement next to the router going, what the hell happened?
Yeah, my wife's having to work from home as well, and we both kind of communicate with each other to try to schedule meetings at separate times, just to address any bandwidth issues. But she has the office and I got the bar game room. I got the better end of the deal.
Well, you can see how good of a deal it worked out for me that I'm the one in the garage.
How's that feel when that cold front just blew through?
I have a space heater under the table here that isn't on right now. I didn't have to buy them. I bought some noise canceling headphones because over here is a freezer, and on the other side of this wall is the washer and dryer and the furnace. So it could be, if somebody's drying clothes and the furnace comes on and the freezer is running, and the space heater's on, these help cut down on the noise. And the garage is actually cleaner because every now and then I'll get sick of sitting here, and so I'll go over and put things away for 15 minutes and take stuff out and that kind of stuff.
I'm really happy having my 1 hour and a half of commuting that I don't have to do. I can use it to, just chill.
Yeah, I don't miss the spending 3 hours a day commuting at all.
All right. Well, if nobody has anything else, do we want to get back to our relaxed working from home, or does somebody have anything else to add to it?
I don't know if Heather can see the chat where everybody's going, oh my God, 3 hours.
Yeah.
What's wrong with you?
I know, it's a little crazy. It's about an hour and a half into the office and then an hour and a half back, because I live in the East Bay in the San Francisco Bay Area, and then work is in San Francisco but up on the waterfront.
Am I remembering correctly that you used to ride your bike into work?
Yeah, I ride my bike to a Transbay bus stop, put my bike on the bus, get on the bus, and then the bus takes me and my bike over the bridge into the city, and then I ride my bike in the city out to work. So I am missing the bike commute exercise, so I have to really try to fit in like going running every day, something like that. I think exercise and movement is a really key part to working at home so much.
Yeah, one of the things I used to do when I was working at home all the time was about every hour and a half to 2 hours, I would get up and take a 15-minute walk. Just walk around the block, do something, just get out and move. Normally when you're in an office environment, you end up moving around without even thinking about it. You step over to somebody else's office, you talk to them, you've got different things happening. But when you're at home, you just end up working, and the next thing you know, it's 4 hours later.
Yeah, I've found that I've set alarms, or I'll start a podcast and then make a note to when the podcast is over, get up and move. I've had to plan the movement into my day.
It's totally new for me working from home, and I found that it's still been tough kind of trying to stay focused on things, but when I am, it seems like I'm actually more efficient than at the office, which surprised me. I didn't expect that, but when I look back at my list of things I got done, I'm surprised at how much I was able to get finished.
I had like a week of calm, and then people decided to learn how to use technology. So they would like at work, they stomp over to my cubicle, and now they just hit me with chat messages all the time. So it's just the same but different.
Yeah, I found that too. I get these waves of helping people with technology or trying to help them find things because we're trying to be more electronic now. And so when I do get a chance to really focus, I am more efficient because I can focus, but I found that I've pretty much lost control of when that quiet time for focusing would happen.
Yeah, I've pretty much enjoyed working at home, other than the fact that I don't have the same connections to our technology because the city's network is behind a firewall, so you have to go into that in one direction. But my home internet obviously is not connected to that firewall, so you're constantly having to kind of go into things from different directions. Other than that, it's kind of nice.
Most of us are completely cut off from most of everything. The City of McKinney's IT department came up with this wonderful policy that says they will not allow VPN access from any personal device. The only way you can have VPN access is if you have a city-issued laptop, period. Or you can sign a bunch of paperwork and bring your desktop home.
I actually brought my desktop home.
Okay. Most of us have not bothered to do that. So I don't have any connection to anything beyond the VPN, you know, but oh well. What, so you say you are not even allowed to work from home? That's rough, isn't it? Are they at least paying you? Oh, so you're having to work at the library. Okay. I had somebody in the chat, Jennie, is that right? Saying she's not allowed to work from home, having to come into the library. A lot of us have been told that we should only be doing necessary things and tracking that little bit of time. We're not expected to work an 8-hour day. So something like this for me is not working from home. I'm just doing this because it's community stuff, not library work. All right. Well, anybody have any other things to discuss? Has anybody tried anything interesting? I've got a nephew who's going to library school and saw on Facebook I posted something about Koha and he was interested in it. So I'm thinking of setting up something in some of this time, setting up a Koha instance and letting him play around with it while he's in school, kind of walk him through that process. Has anybody done that with anybody from the ground floor, you know, installing it?
I brought home an old desktop computer that was in the recycle bin at work, and I was thinking of, I brought it home to set up Koha in it just for fun.
Yeah, I've done that any number of times. I've got a couple of old computers that I've done that with, but I was thinking of trying to go to one of those online services and set up one that way where he and I both could play with it together and turn it into an educational experience for him, and trying to get him into, you know, plugged into the Koha group a little bit more, since, you know, everybody we can.
I think, I know Fred has done that on DigitalOcean.
Yeah, I looked at DigitalOcean and I set a Koha instance up there, but using their smallest tier, it only has 2 gigs of memory. And when I imported a bunch of records, it ran out of memory and crashed any number of times. And I'm not going to pay $20 a month for something to play with.
Right.
the only way you can get 4 gigs or more of memory.
Right.
Yeah, if I remember right, Fred's collection is fairly small, so he probably doesn't need a lot of memory.
That's probably true, yeah. Well, I think his, I know he set it up on DigitalOcean, but I think the machine that he runs his catalog on is actually at his desk.
Yeah.
Somewhere in that office it is.
Yeah, this was crashing when I was trying to rebuild the indexing. It would run out of memory there, and I only had a couple of hundred records in it. So it isn't worth more than $5 a month. All right. Well, if nobody else has anything, I'm willing to call this meeting adjourned.
One more
Anybody gonna
shameless
second
plug.
that?
One more shameless plug for Koha-thon. I'll put the link in the in the chat. It's next Thursday, 8 a.m. Eastern to 8 p.m. Pacific. So like 15 hours of Koha education, learning, great stuff. Schedule's up on that link I just posted. So please join us for any and all of it.
Yeah, I just sent that out to all of my full-time staff that's looking for things to do.
It's 15 hours of things to do right there.
There you go. All right. Thank y'all. Have a good rest of your week.
Thanks, Ed. See you later.
Thanks.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.